That's James's dinner today. And it looks like he wants to talk about some stuff, but he's probably not going to have time to do so.
It doesn't matter. I'm warning people. I haven't finished it. I've got 30 pages of notes left. But there's, what, 700 pages in here?
So I was going to talk about this pizza that we're having, because it says that it's made with double fermented stuff, and we'll talk about that. And well, this is what's on it. So, and the peppers and it's sweet strawberry tomatoes, and then this is the lineup that we're talking about. So my angels wanted me to talk about sustainable and the biggest little farm again. They didn't think I did a good enough job reviewing it. So those two. So then I realized, oh, well, we've been eating this pizza, and I should have mentioned that because in this show, sustainable. James had mentioned when we reviewed this last that they were talking about nutrition. There was a baker that was on there, and he really loved his work, really loved being a baker. And there was another woman talking about it, I think, though, and she was mentioning that if you don't ferment the grains, then like wheat or whatever, then we can't digest it or something like that. You'll have to watch this to see what she said, because I don't remember exactly. But I think that's why my angels wanted me to talk more, because with this pizza that we're getting, instant pizza, because when I'm gardening, like I'll show you here, I have all of these little guys, and this would fill another 6 pea bells for the row. And what do I do, right? Because the longer I leave them like this, or even if I transplant them, every time I transplant them, there's going to be a bit of transplant shock. And are they going to be okay, right? So the peat bales that I wanted to use, the 3.8 cubic foot peat bales, they ran out, and there weren't even any in the warehouse. And now there'll be, so I put some on hold, and they'll be back in the warehouse on June the 15th. Well, that's quite a ways off. And I have little guys to go in, and these guys, they got to go in the peat bale row, because they won't, in the peat bale row, they will actually perform. But if I, yeah, and because of the sun, like it's a great spot and all of that, and they'll be better off there. But if I put them, back with the rest of the tomatoes, they won't be as well. So that's where they have to go. And some of these, they're just so tiny. So, but even just not transplanting them, look at this guy. Oh, didn't work out. He's gone.
Dead,
yeah. And this guy here, oh, that doesn't look so good. He's not making it. So the longer I wait, I lose more. And that's just heartbreaking, right? Because we've been working so long with these guys, and then they don't work out.
They seem to be trying hard.
Yeah, they do.
That sort of stuff.
So you can see there's lots of different kinds of tomatoes here. Like this one here is a stupus. I can tell from the way it looks. And this one here, oh, I don't know. He's just a little guy. This one here is you can see that one, the leaves are quite a bit different, right? And he needs a little bit of water. He's wilty. So we're going to have to deal with that, because he's a pretty big one. And I think that's a silvery fir tree tomato. So there's a lot of different kinds of tomatoes here. And well, what is he? Well, I didn't put the name on the pot, or else it's worn off. So I don't know, right? But I think from the leaf that's what he is. But I don't know. Anyway, so what was I going to talk about with that? Why did I bring him up? I don't know. So anyway, I was going to talk about the pizza a little more that James has eaten, and he's put some of the toppings on. I didn't even bother to put them on, because if I wait a while till it gets cold, it kind of holds itself up a bit. But these pizza, you can see how thin that crust is. It's really not thick enough. We were trying to put toppings on it and cooking it, and I found, okay, that's really not working out so well. And I fried up the onions and shiitake mushrooms separately, and James can
Yeah.
put it on after.
It ended up being a little bit like mushroom,
Yeah.
or mushroom soup, maybe,
Yeah. So anyway,
in the middle,
kind of.
which is okay. I love
Yeah.
mushroom soup.
Yeah.
It's very tasty.
So I don't know. I got those pizzas because they were on clearance for $1.77 each, and that I think is a good price for that. I could eat one of those whole pieces on my own, because you could see without when I showed that, I counted them. There's only 5 cherry or grape tomatoes, little tiny tomatoes on each pizza, big, sliced up in half. And that's kind of silly, that's not very much in the way of toppings. And so really, these are, as much as they look like a big size pizza, they're really a personal size as far as I'm concerned. And especially when you're working hard in the garden, you come in and you can wolf run a nose down, no problem, really fast. Okay, so what else was I going to talk about with sustainable? Oh, I should have brought up, now I'm going to show just how little I know about chemistry. Honestly, I have tried to learn chemistry. I always think that, like, when I'm studying horticulture, or when I went and studied agriculture and got a degree a Bachelor of Science degree in university, I always loved the soil teachers that I had. I was so impressed with them, and because they understood chemistry and they understood how important the soil is, right? And I always figured, well, chemistry is so awesome that if somebody really, you think about, people always ask talk about, oh, I'd like to ask God, what's the meaning of life and all that. And I think if you understood chemistry really well, you wouldn't have to ask God that. You'd just understand it, because chemistry is awesome. It's life. And anyway, so in this show, there's an Amish guy, I'd mentioned him briefly, who was talking about soil chemistry. And I remember normally when you think about Amish people, maybe it's just me, and I feel a little funny saying this, but you don't think of them as being like cutting edge in terms of anything. Yeah. So I didn't expect to hear this guy talking about soil chemistry and stuff like that. And wow, he knew his stuff, and he was the most impressive person on this. So he was talking about something that they didn't cover it well enough in here, because I know where he was going with it, because I studied soils in university. I studied what was it? Land resource management or something like that. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was agriculture soil management, something like that. I think that's what it was called. So anyway, and the instructor that I had, he was an awesome soils instructor, and he knew that was Ross Mackenzie. And anyway, so he was talking about Ross Mackenzie in the class that I was taking. He was teaching us about how to do soils tests and stuff like that, and how you can use compost and more manure, right? Talking about manure in as a fertilizer to grow agriculture crops. And he was talking about using soil rotations and stuff like that, right? So you have crop rotations of, say, you'll have some sort of peas or beans or something like that, a nitrogen fixer in your crop rotation, and then you'll have to add less nitrogen, right? Because the plants are doing it for you. They're adding that. So, and Anyway, but back to the manure. So if you're piling on loads and loads of manure in, like they talked about it briefly in the Biggest Little Farm, I think it was, but putting loads and loads of manure on the land because you have these big livestock operations where you're producing so much of it, the waste has got to go somewhere. And so they're spreading way too much on land, and they're making it, if you, boy, there's a lot to talk about here. And that's the thing, that these people who had no idea, they can say all they want, oh, we've read every book about it. No, you haven't. You haven't read every book about agriculture. There's so much to know. You could study your whole life long, and you wouldn't know everything. So with when you're looking at nutrients and crop productivity, so yield, you have, when you're adding fertilizer, and it has a steep curve like this going up, and you add, and you get a lot of productivity. And then all of a sudden it goes like this. It kind of flatlines. So you can add more and more and more and more fertilizer, and you're not getting any more yield. And then all of a sudden what happens? Drop, plunk, right over here. So a lot of the time, people are over fertilizing with specific nutrients, right? Because they have so much manure, they have to get rid of it. They're putting it on loads and loads and loads. What's going to happen to your yield? Huh? So then, in this, the Amish guy, who actually knew what he was doing better than so many people I've heard talk about it, he was talking about how when you have too much of one thing, then, and I can't remember what it was exactly. I think it was potassium he was talking about, but I can't remember. I'd have to watch it again. It could be phosphorus. If you have too much of one thing, then it doesn't, it will interfere with other things. So you'll end up with, maybe you have too much of one thing, you will end up with a calcium deficiency or something. It's not going to help you to add more calcium, because you already have this problem of too much with one thing that is blocking the calcium uptake. And then, so what do? You have to put something on that's going to counteract that too much of one thing that you have, right? In order for the calcium to actually be absorbed, so that it won't, so that whatever you have too much of isn't going to interfere with the calcium thing. And he explains it way better than I'm doing. So, anyway, so, what was I going to say? Anyway, if you are adding manure, lots and lots of manure to your land, and you're thinking, oh, well, there's free fertilizer, lots of, oh, more is better. Well, no, it's not. And you have to actually get soil tests, so you know that, oh, this is where my soil is. I have this much of this much of this, and I actually need this. You have to know how much you need of whatever, so that you can, so you're not just winging it. You can't just wing it. You have to know. So anyway, so you get your soil test, and then when we were looking at it in agriculture soil management, I think that was the name of the course, then the limiting thing was always nitrogen. You had lots and lots of manure, and you need nitrogen. So one thing that they didn't talk about in these that I learned about in my class was how, I guess some farmers, they've been doing it for a while, because it's been a while since I've taken that class, but they're
15 years
applying nitrogen as a gas to crops, and they must be absorbing, the plants must be absorbing it through their stomata. How else? So, like carbon dioxide or whatever, right? And so anyway, it's working really well, but they're having a problem with, like, it seems like it's totally clean applying it this way, right? But there's a problem with, I think it was flammability or something like that. So and you can understand how, oh, wait a minute, we're using combustion engines to motor around, this might be a problem. But if you have a little farm, I can't see why you would necessarily need to have a combustion engine to pull that around if you're all suited up and stuff and you're protected.
Yeah, it's weird. They
Yeah,
must be
might
having,
be a cleaner way to do it.
nitrogen exists as N2 in the environment, and it's the reason why it exists that way is downtown's terribly flammable.
Okay.
It's like,
Well, I
but
don't know.
then,
Maybe it's
hold
just
on.
the concentrations or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you'd have to look it up for yourself because it's been, like James said, 15 years since I learned about it. And I've never done it. I've never seen it being done. And I don't know anything about it. I'm just saying it was mentioned in the class, and
Yeah, maybe
So
it's
look into
flammable.
it.
I mean, we've got
I don't
O2 in the atmosphere, and it's, well, it's flammable, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
anyway, I have no idea. But it's, I mean, there's a lot of people who they're into organic farming and whatever, and they think, oh, sustainable, yay, yay. Well, there might be some other options, like, I don't know if it's really a bad thing to put fertilizer on your crop. I've wondered about using the, a 20-20-20 or something like that, fertilizer blend, because I just use that because that's an all-purpose fertilizer, 20-20-20. But as an example, because I've always wondered, again, showing my ignorance of chemistry, why, like it's with 20-20-20, for example, it's 20% nitrogen, 20% phosphorus, and 20% potassium in this formulation, right? So then you go, okay, well, what's the rest of it? Well, it's filler, right? But it's filler that has to be there, apparently, because these chemicals can't, they have to be with something else, like they're not, it's like a chemical salt formulation or whatever, like they're in little, what do you call that?
Compounds?
Granule? Yeah, but anyway.
Crystals?
Crystals, yes. So they're, it's not just nitrogen, it's not just potassium, and it's not just phosphorus. They're attached to other things, right? And they have to be,
Yeah, it's a little
to
bit
be
like
that way.
when they give you sodium in a solution. They give you potassium. I don't know what the combo is. But when they give you sodium, they're basically giving you NaCl salt when you're in intensive care. I've been there, done that.
Okay. But anyway, I have wondered about the putting on fertilizer. You put on fertilizer, whatever. And even if you're doing a really good job and you're just on that, you're right at the top, that's where you want to be, right at the top of that peak before it goes straight, right? You're right there, you're applying your fertilizer really well. I've wondered about the salt buildup in the soil from the other things, right? You know what I mean? Because, of course, salt's not good for growing plants. So I've wondered about that, but then if you have that, if you're using manure and then you're using like the nitrogen gas, then you wouldn't have that, and so you might be better off, right? But it's good to look into all these things and think, well, you're like, if you're just flying by the seat of your pants and know nothing about agriculture
anything.
or anything, well, he was very good nature photographer, the man. The woman, I think she was completely useless. But anyway.
So he was a good nature photographer or a good natured philosopher? Or I'm just kidding.
So you have to realize that it's all chemistry. Your soil, whatever you're applying, the manure, whatever, it's all chemistry. So it's all really chemical fertilizer. You have to think about it that way. You get your soil test and it goes, oh, this is how much is in your soil. You have to know what the chemical composition of your soil is, right? So that you know, oh, well, this is what I need to grow this properly or that properly or whatever. And you've got to know, oh, I'm putting on too much fertilizer. Like these guys were having problems with, they had way too many ducks in their pond, and then they had the algae bloom, and their catfish were dying, and whatever. And it just, so many problems because they weren't farmers. They had no business doing it. They were, I don't know who funded them. Honestly, I'm educated in agriculture and horticulture. You want to give me millions of dollars to have a farm? Please contact me. I'll be happy to do that. And I'll do it better than these guys will, because I actually know what I'm doing a bit better. Even though I'm telling you right now, chemistry, not so good at it. I've wondered about things, but I know enough to know that I don't know very much. And I know enough that I would get somebody else to do soil tests for me, and so that I would know what to apply and whatever. Anyway, so I think that's really all that I need to cover about this. Is awesome Amish guy, and important to know about soil chemistry. So, Mayfair Witches Season 2. This was actually really entertaining. I didn't expect it would be. I thought it's going to be really stupid, whatever. I was entertained. So,
Was it set in England?
well, they actually ended up in Scotland for a while, but no, it's not. It's set in, this is Anne Rice's thing, and which James obviously hasn't read the Anne Rice stuff, but that's okay. It was very popular. And
I've heard the
maybe
name.
again. Yeah, okay. So, set in New Orleans, and this season a bit in Scotland. Pretty interesting. Two Lovers and a Bear. I was going to change its title to Two Losers and a Bear, but given what happened at the end of the show, I thought maybe I shouldn't do that. That's kind of mean. But it was actually quite entertaining.
Is it a documentary?
No, it is not. It's
Okay.
a movie.
Okay.
But it's if you want to get a good idea of what a lot of Canada looks like, there you go. So, Finding You. So, it's I've watched this one before, but I couldn't really remember it. And romance, whatever. It's entertaining enough. Set in Ireland, so you get some interesting scenery.
Folks don't look that Irish, do they?
Well, they're not. But they ended up there, and that's where they met. So, back to the Biggest Little Farm. Boy, oh boy, this is so bad. I don't know what else to say about this one. Would you like to say anything else about it?
It starts out their dog can't live in the city.
Yeah,
They're
and
renting, and that's their
that's their
motivation.
motivation to try to
For
get,
getting out on the farm.
and they don't have any money, so they get some investors to buy them. Like, it must have been millions of dollars that they spent. They got this big earthworm composting operation going, that's like huge, huge operation. And what else? They made some compost tea, and like huge,
So
state-of-the-art stuff.
Don't try this on the
And,
farm. And if someone comes along with some sort of prospectus like
Orchard.
this, like trying to get your money, don't do it.
Honestly, like I was watching this, and they showed her balcony tomato crop. She had a few tomato plants on a balcony, and I'm like, okay, and that made her think, I'm gonna have a 200-acre farm, and it's gonna be successful and whatever. And it's like, wow, your tomatoes don't look that hot. But anyway, the guy that was, I don't know, her guru for setting up this farm, I don't even think he really knew that much about stuff.
Oh my God.
Like
He was a contractor.
Well, I guess so.
Yeah.
But
Anything
Anyway.
like arborist contractors wouldn't know a thing.
anyway, so I don't think he knew very much. Like, they
No.
didn't talk about anything like, I don't think they did anything like soil tests. At one point, the pig, she's had her little piglets, and she's sick. And then later, she doesn't want to eat the lettuce. And I was wondering, I wonder if the lettuce is toxic and she's figured that out or something. Like, I don't know. They don't explain why the pig got sick, why, they had this sick sow and she got better.
She survived them.
Yeah.
She survived
She
the illness
survived
and
them
survived
somehow.
them.
Yeah. But boy, like they had so many trees dying and this and that and whatever, and I was looking at this. I wonder what they're, if there's toxins in the soil. Like they haven't done any kind of tests on it or anything. Like what's going on? Anyway, whatever. Doctor Who, the Daleks in color. Now, you can look at this and there's some lovely pictures in color on the back and on the front of the box. And the disc, that's in color. But the show itself is in black and white. I'm
now,
serious.
Now, if ever there was any false advertising,
I watched
you got it here, folks.
And I really wasn't put off by that because I can't imagine it would be better in color. But I press play and there's the black and white show and I'm like, I wonder when it's going to be color. And I don't think I fell asleep. So it was all in black and white as far as I could tell. Mm-hmm. The turning. Now this, they had some interesting ideas for the show that I think maybe they should have done a mini series or something like that instead of movie, because I think that's why they didn't flesh out some of these ideas, because they introduced ideas to us that they didn't follow up on. So you have the girl who's her doll's talking to her. Well, you could have something about that going in, or you could have whatever. But they had an interesting ending to the movie, but still, nothing was really fleshed out enough. Like, say with the pictures that the mother sent to the girl, and you could have had her looking at them, and she's seeing all of these, the artwork of like somehow the mother had seen visions of what was happening or something, and so here the girl's seeing that in the artwork, and then when you see the artwork through somebody else's eyes, well, it's just nothing. It's just, that's not there. You could have had that, but they didn't. And so this ended up way down in the stack because it didn't work well enough. They didn't work on making it work. Batman and Robin, this is terrible. But
look at who's on top there. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, well, that's really the main problem with this, but yeah, it's funny because you look at special effects and just not very long down the road, they look cheesy. So whenever you look at things, special effects, and you're like, oh, this looks really good now. Well, it's not going to. It's not going to have staying power. So, yeah.
It better have something
else other than special effects, and that doesn't. So my Dead Friend Zoe, this was terrible. Nobody would want to watch this, but as I've said before, Morgan Freeman.
We're on a Morgan Freeman one. And it's been lasting like 2 decades, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, anyway, you have 37 seconds to talk about whatever you want.
I'm just going to say about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
He actually acts. He acts poorly, but he never used to act, right? Mm. So he must have learned that in his political career, how to lie. You hearing that, Arnie? You scumbag Republican.
Anyway, yeah, that's my Dead Friend Zoe. It's a story about, people coming back from Afghanistan, and they're in a group or whatever, and talking about, and the one girl